Welcome, everyone. My name is Edward Hertzman, founder and CEO of Athletech News, and welcome to today's session. You know, it seems the new shiny idea gets all the attention, whether it's from the media, whether it's from the influencers, whether it's from the investment community. But there is something to learn from fundamental companies who've been successful for more than decades. Maybe they don't get all the headlines, but there's a lot of learnings within those four walls, and which is why we've asked you three to join us today. There is no shortage of fitness and wellness products being marketed to today's consumers. So, Alberto, first question for you. How are you and Zumba been able to resist disruption? And how do you continue to stay relevant and on top of your game 20 years after founding the company?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. And really enjoy reading Athletech News every time I get your newsletter. So thank you. And keep doing what you're doing. You're doing something great for the industry. I think that the reason that Zumba has been able to stand the test of time is because we sell more than a workout. There's companies that sell a workout, and someone at one point came up with 8-minute abs, and then the next year somebody came up with 7-minute abs, right? Like there's always some better way of doing something from a physical standpoint. But I think Zumba sells an emotion. And we call that emotion internally, we call it FEJ, freeing, electrifying joy is what we name it. And it's that moment when someone is in a Zumba class after the warm up, after the first 15 minutes, and the merengue comes on or the reggaeton comes up, and they just get lost in the music and they forget that they're working out and they're just in a moment of exhilaration. That's the moment we sell. And then the other thing we have is a community. There's a very strong community. There's many communities built around Zumba. There's one big Zumba community, and there's the local communities. And people love the sense of belonging. People love doing Zumba with other people. And I think there's a triangle there. There's the physical part of Zumba, which is it burns a lot of calories and it's a great cardio workout. There's the emotion of Zumba, which is we call FEJ. And then there's the community of Zumba. And I think those three things help us stand the test of time, and people just keep coming back to Zumba class.
Yeah. Similarly, thanks so much. Really appreciate the opportunity. Psyched to be on this panel with you guys. It's funny, as Alberto was talking, there's, I think, a lot of overlap in some respects that CrossFit and Zumba are obviously different in some dimensions, but there are some things where I think we've similarly found things that have helped us stand the test of time. I think what I'd start with for CrossFit, CrossFit started with, I think, a somewhat different orientation than a lot of companies in this space. It was this hardcore commitment to being empirically driven and driving results. What do we mean by that? So the whole mission really on is how do we help people improve their fitness and improve their health? And if we understand what that looks like, how do we work backwards from those outcomes to understand how we create an approach to fitness, what we call a methodology that fundamentally drives the best improvement in fitness for people? And early on, what we describe that now today is CrossFit is constantly varied functional movement executed at high intensity, what a lot of people today will articulate as functional training, which is a big category. It turns out that from the very early days, CrossFit growth was driven because it fundamentally produced extraordinary results in fitness. And so as people started doing these workouts, they saw gains and improvements in their overall fitness and their overall health. Along the way, we discovered some pretty amazing things on top of that. Well, it turns out that doing pretty hard, pretty intense workouts in the company of others, that notion of shared adversity built a level of human connection and community that enhanced the gains you were getting in fitness. Now, all of a sudden, on top of the physical fitness gains, you've got this notion of connection and belonging that is a really powerful part of the experience as well. So for us, as we think about, what has stood the test of time, what will allow us as we move forward to continue to have the type of impact, it's really fundamentally staying true to those core principles. CrossFit's not easy. It never will be. Doing hard things in the company of others is what drives results. And it's what creates the type of community that's so meaningful for people.
Eric, curious to see hear your response, because obviously it's just not the modalities and the new boutiques and studios that we've seen a lot of. We've also seen a lot of people enter the equipment space. So What's your take on this?
No, I mean, and I would probably like to tag on to that Don is on to. I think we probably at Deleco have one of the most analog products in the industry, the barbell, and it's just the weight that you need to lift, and I think what really matters for that part is that it actually over time has shown to really give results. Of course, we are very grateful for what CrossFit has done to the industry, because I think no one has been better and more successful in actually getting that message out to people, that it gives results for people in terms of training, but also as you noted, it also builds a connection when you do both the connection with your, I mean, internally, when you achieve something just with the barbell, but also when you achieve it together with people. So I think for us, it's, I mean, we've been, you know, when I started in my role 10 years ago, I thanked one of our co-workers who had been in the company for 46 years, working at Deleco. And I think, so we've really been around as a company more than 65 years in the strength industry. And I think for us, it's really being very focused on the core business, which is for us strength. And we come from professional sports, professional weightlifting, powerlifting. We are at the Olympic Games, the World Championships, all the big competitions. And that is where we really connect, of course, with the product and the brand, but that is also what we bring to other segments. So it's really staying true to the core.
So I have another question for everyone. Can you talk about a point in your company's journey when perhaps you were worried about your future, or you had to pivot and innovate? You know, Alberto, I have to imagine when DVDs and infomercials kind of became obsolete, that was a scary moment in Zuma's journey. You want to talk to that?
Yeah, sure. Well, our history is we started out with DVDs. We sold 25 million DVD sets via television. It was crazy. And we were also doing video games. We had video games on the Nintendo Wii. We sold 14 million video games on Nintendo Wii. So when people stopped buying DVDs, we were at a crossroads. And what we decided to do was focus on our instructors, because the instructors are the ones that are building the local communities. And we said, we are going to really make sure that these instructors have all the tools to be successful, whether it's education, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, anything they need in order to deliver amazing Zumba classes to a lot of people. And we knew the product was amazing, and we always listened to the product and where the product wanted to go. And we saw that the product, which is the Zumba class or the Zumba experience, wanted to be live, wanted to be in real life, wanted to be in person. And we said, let's double down on that, and let's make sure we create a business model that allows us to take it all over the world. So now we have Zumba classes in over 200,000 locations. We are in 186 countries, and we have 15 million people who take Zumba classes every week.
But no more DVDs.
No more DVDs. We still, you can still get them on Amazon. You can still get DVDs.
That's crazy. Eric, what about from your perspective?
I think, I mean, just the most recent scenario is probably the pandemic, where I think, I mean, some insights from that from on my part is that I think, I mean, initially that was a shock to the whole industry, but I think very quickly it materialized that there were both opportunity and of course some real challenges in it. And I think for us as a supplier, there was a very, quite quickly it was clear that there was a big, the demand for fitness didn't really, I mean, it didn't disappear, it just shifted to the home. So the boom in the home fitness market was very obvious, and it happened overnight. When there was a lockdown, it was almost like turning off one tap and turning on the other one. So it was very clear. And we saw that, they were very successful, first year of the pandemic and the second year of the pandemic for quite a few suppliers, us included. But I think that was the first sort of challenge, and that was an opportunity as well for many. I think the second challenge was really to not sort of overextend in this hype, which I think actually a lot of companies did. So you kind of planned your investments and your activities at the peak level, and that showed to be quite, I mean, in some instances, even catastrophic for companies. You had companies that were doing their best years in 2021 or 2020, and then they went into bankruptcy 2 years later. So that was only the second sort of phase of challenges, and then you sort of went into the third phase, which was more when the home fitness boom kind of receded, the B2B market came back, but then many companies went into that with imbalances in both the product range and the stock levels and so forth. And then you also might have had companies that were not financially stable enough to really cope with that whole inflation pressure that has been coming as well in the later stage. So I think it just shows that you need to, as a company, I think you need to be very, it's not just one event that happens. I mean, you have to build a company that can be both withstand the negative effects that happens from change, but also exploit and take advantage of the opportunities that come up with change and disruption.
That was a really great answer. I think we're going to edit that out in post and use that as the marketing sizzle reel for this event. That was really well said, Eric. Don, what about from the CrossFit perspective?
Sure, it's interesting when you asked the question. Is there a point when we were worried about our future? I was reminded of this great quote by Andy Grove, founder CEO at Intel: "Only the paranoid survive." And truth is, I wake up every single morning paranoid. I think the lasting companies have that type of mentality. The future is not preordained. We've got to hustle every day to earn it. Certainly for us, I think one of the more challenging periods was COVID. We are a community of 13,000 physical locations around the world. These are brick and mortar gyms run by small business owners who overnight had their business turned upside down. And that was an extraordinary challenging time. Came at a time, by the way, when there was a sale of CrossFit, and there were a lot of ups and downs in the community. So there were, layers upon layers of challenges for the community. And, as I think back and look back on that period, a lot of questions around, hey, what does the future look like for us? Is the physical gyms, are they a thing of the future? Is this work from home thing the new reality? What does that mean for us? What does that mean for our affiliate owners? And so we had to make some really hard choices in the short term around, hey, how do we as a community survive this? What is our role? How do we pull the community together? How do we support them in a way that gives them the best possibility and opportunity to succeed? And at the same time, how do we think about what we believe the future looks like so that we can plan for it? And so, at that point, we made a bet on, of course, we need to be able to support an experience for folks who are training from home. But we always had long-term conviction that people are going to want to train together, that this notion of being a community, being in person, being back in that physical space, there is something about that human connection that is essential. And we didn't know how long it would take, but we had real conviction that experience that happens inside the four walls of our affiliates, of our gyms around the world, was one that humanity, that our community was going to come back to. And so it's pretty incredible to see, looking back now, what was an incredibly trying time. We're back at a place now where most of our gyms are reporting that they have exceeded pre-pandemic levels. People are back in their facilities. Our entrepreneurs, these small gym owners, were incredible about supporting each other, their communities. You hear time and time again, even when gyms were closed, the majority of their members would keep paying their membership because they cared that much about the community and they cared that much about their owner. And so that's the kind of root of what's so special about the CrossFit community.
So Eric, kind of as a follow-up to my first question, as strength training modalities like Olympic lifting and powerlifting become more and more popular and mainstream, new equipment makers are cropping up. How has your organization been able to position itself and stay the dominant player in this growing segment?
Yeah, and you're right. I think strength and more specifically, I think lifting is really gaining ground in the facilities. And I think we've seen that for more than, it feels as if it's almost a trend right now, but I think it's been going on for at least 10 years or so. It's just happening at different pace in different markets. And yes, we see a lot of companies sort of entering this space. I think for us, it's really about staying very true to our core. This is where we come from. This is our roots. This is our sort of core product. I think we invest probably more both in terms of direct investments, passion, expertise into this than any other in the industry. I think it's quite interesting when you look at. I mean, we are a specialist, but you have also the generalists in the company, and they have typically been leaning much more towards the cardio side of the equipment range. And that's quite logical. I mean, that's been the bigger part. It's probably been up towards 70% of the value of a facility. That is shifting clearly now, but I think you still see that there are many companies are not as focused as we are on this particular product range. It's still sort of even called and named accessories in some regard. And I think for us, it's really about staying, going deep, innovating within our core. We love to not just, I mean, we don't necessarily seek to just find a completely new product in our innovation. We seek to innovate within our core. One good example of that is the up and deadlift bar, which is basically the trap bar, which is a very classic product that has been used for years. We look at that and we sort of open up one side, we put counterweights and we make it into just a better product. That's the type of innovation we love doing. So going deep on innovation, on quality, is really at the core of our strategy.
Now, a similar question. CrossFit has inspired many copycat concepts in the functional training and group fitness spaces. How do you ward off these competitors, and how do you convince people that both the consumer and the potential franchisees that CrossFit is still the way to go? And how do you stand out and not lose customers to these new players?
For sure, yeah. I'd say there's two really essential things for us, and admittedly, there's a little bit of tension between the two. The first kind of gets back to a little bit of what I started with, which is most importantly for us, we need to stay true to what CrossFit is and what has driven unparalleled results for people for 2 decades. And I think there is. Alberto touched on this a little bit earlier. You often see this trend in our industry of we'll make it easier for you. Not 8 minutes, 7 minutes. Get your entire fitness in 90 seconds, 2 days a week. We'll never, move in that direction. We've got a methodology that fundamentally works and works for anyone who's willing to give it a shot. And we have to stay really disciplined about staying true to those principles and the methodology. At the same time, we have to do a much better job of helping people understand that CrossFit's for anyone who's willing to give it a shot. We've now got a lot of folks out there who look at CrossFit and say, gosh, I'm not fit enough to try it, or that's only for hardcore, former athletes. The truth is, if you walk into any one of our 13,000 gyms, you're going to see young, old, male, female, super fit, folks who are on the very first day of their fitness journey. The beauty of CrossFit is that it supports this incredibly inclusive environment, but most people don't know that. They don't discover that until they actually give it a shot. And so we have to do a much better job of helping people who could be a great fit, who really have a desire and willingness to work hard and improve their fitness, help them understand that there is this incredibly inclusive, welcoming community, and we just need them to give it a shot. So you'll see us spend a lot more time on that, elevating these stories, helping people understand that there are folks just like them who've been able to find success with CrossFit.
Alberto, I'm hearing the word community a lot today. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs try to manufacture an audience and market their way to success, but you've done it authentically. How have you done it authentically, and what advice would you have for the audience that are trying to create communities within their brands?
First of all, the CrossFit next to my house, you can't even get in. It's so packed. There's lines out the door. It's amazing. So there's a lot of community in CrossFit, and just like CrossFit, there's a lot of community in Zumba. It's a different community, but there's a lot of community. And I think the thing about Zumba is community is authentic to Zumba because people like to dance together. People dance at weddings. People dance at nightclubs. It's a natural thing that has been going on probably before humans could talk. They started dancing, right? Like it is a very biological, natural sort of response, and they do it together, and it creates trust. That people dance for war, people dance for peace, people dance for love, people dance for entertainment, people dance for everything. Like dance is something that is culturally a very communal thing. So I think it's just by the nature of our workout, it is it is community focused. I do think that working out in general is better when there's more people around. You work out harder, you do more, you're willing to hold yourself. Unfortunately, people are more accountable to other people than they are to themselves. And that's just human nature. It's how we evolved to survive, to be accountable to each other. So I would just say that to entrepreneurs that are trying to create a community is that just create the space and make sure that it is a natural fit to just have community in that environment, that it is just made for that. Because if you do in and out, no time for talking, there's no way of doing anything, it's just all separate, then you won't create a community. But if people are able to go in and talk a little bit at their reception at the area where you enter the gym, and then have a great coach and have a communal experience, it just happens automatically.
Don, how important is in real life to building a strong community? You think you could have that CrossFit experience, without being in person?
So I think you can certainly build community online, and I think there's a ton of companies who have done this successfully. Actually, if you look at the original roots of CrossFit, go back to the early 2000s. Yeah, there was a gym in Santa Cruz, but most people discovered CrossFit by going to CrossFit.com, looking at the workout of the day, and then posting the results. And you'd have thousands, tens of thousands of people every day updating the results and congratulating or talking a little bit of smack to each other. And that was the early roots of the CrossFit community. That being said, there's no question, in my opinion, that the notion of building a community in real life is much more powerful and much easier. I think Alberto touched on this really well. Look, fundamental, I think, to building community is creating some sort of meaningful human connection. How do you allow people to connect on a level? And you can do that through joy and celebration. In our case, you can do it through doing hard things together. I think that's a really powerful way of creating the conditions for community. And there's just, when you're standing next to someone, sweating next to them, cheering in their ear, lifting them up, clapping for them as they do something that they didn't think was possible, there's no question that's so much more powerful when you do it in person. And so I think our challenge is, I think we do a great job. The CrossFit community does an amazing job of creating the in-person community. I think we got to do a better job of getting back to our roots and complementing that with an amazing online community as well. And so that's one of the things that we're thinking about. It won't ever replace the in-person, but for the folks who want to train 1 or 2 days at home, or for the many millions, tens of millions of people around the world who don't live close to a CrossFit affiliate, how do we help them experience the joy of community as well?
Eric, you started off by saying that you're truly an analog company. Do you guys stay very core and focused on that proposition, or do you think about connected fitness at home, digital content? Is that part of your roadmap at all?
Yeah, it is. But I think, for now, we clearly have a partnership approach to that area. And we recognize that we know how to make and design and manufacture equipment, and then also to build brand. And then we'd love to partner in the tech and the sort of digital area. But I think for us, CrossFit, I think, and Zumba, two excellent examples of strong communities. And for us, even as a supplier, I think it's also a critical thing as well to connect with the community. And I think the sort of the ultimate thing there is really to have empathy for who we are serving, and to connect and understand what it is that they really connect with in our product or in our activity. So that's really at the core as well.
Alberto, I know you and I we had an off the record conversation a couple months ago. We were having a cup of coffee, and we talked about the difference between being a sales and marketing focused company versus being a product focused company. So the question for you is, like, how do you continue to launch new products within the Zumba ecosystem to continue to be innovative and continue to cater to your existing base, but also attract new customers in?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's two different levels of products in the Zumba ecosystem. One is the Zumba class itself, right? That's the product that everybody experiences. And how do we innovate with that product? We innovate with music. And there's new artists that are coming on the scene and it's faster than ever. Nobody knew who Bad Bunny was a few years ago, and then Bad Bunny just took over, right? And so we were putting Bad Bunny music inside Zumba classes. And we were also able to create something called the Zumba Music Lab, which is our own production studio where we work with the same producers that Shakira uses, that Ozuna uses, that all the major Latin artists use, J Balvin, even BTS, the K-pop band, uses the same producers that we use, and we create our own music to enhance the product. So if we see that reggaeton is getting really slow, for example, in some periods of time, like 2021, it just became very ballad-like. So we said, well, we're going to create our own, and we're going to create faster, but with the same producer, so it sounds incredible. So we work on the product, and then we work on things and tools for the instructors to bring more students to their classes, for the gyms to be able to bring more people into the gym, tools, marketing tools. We have a tool that is like a Canva for Zumba. So it allows instructors to basically go and create marketing materials using the Zumba logo, using Zumba patterns, using different stickers, and create materials to put on their social media, right? So all these tools, we're constantly listening to instructors. We go out and we talk to them all the time, and they inspire us to create new tools for them. We have 4 apps already that instructors can use. Actually 3 and 1 coming.
So I have one question to close out the session. Don, it's interesting you referenced Only the Paranoid Can Survive. That's one of my favorite books, and I live by that. I am a neurotic human being at the core. So you're all here today because of your success, past success. But what keeps you up at night? Don, what are you going to do to ensure that your company is here 20 years from now and we're having the same conversation?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, the thing that I spend most of my time thinking about and focusing on is our team, actually, internally. Like anything we hope to create in the future will come from making sure that we have, the most effective team possible who can execute individually and collectively at their highest potential. And we have incredible talent on our team. We've got this incredible community. We haven't always operated as a great team. We've had a lot of change in CrossFit in the last 3 or 4 years. And so for me, if we do an exceptional job putting the making sure we've got the best folks in our team, and we do an exceptional job of creating an environment and culture where people feel cared for and supported and accountable and clear in what success looks like, and we create the conditions where they can come to work every day and exercise that creativity with a high degree of autonomy, I don't worry at all about the future. Like, it will take care of itself. And so that's where we spend, and I've been in this role a little over a year now. That's where we spent 90% of our focus is let's get to a place where, as a team, we feel like we're really punching above our weight. And I think if we do that well, we're going to be really well positioned to deal with the challenges and the opportunities in front of us.
Eric, you don't strike me as a worrier, but same question: what keeps you up at night, and what are you doing to make sure the company's around 20 years from now?
I mean, at the moment, my 6-month-old daughter keeps me up at some nights at least. But apart from that, I mean, we are really a product-driven company. So for us, and we really aim for a premium position. So I mean, just making sure that everything we do ensures that the product has the quality that we seek is really what probably lays the foundation for everything we do in the company. So that's where most of my sort of worry starts, and then over time, I think, for the next 20 years, as I said, we've been around for more than 65 years. So I think we have a very long-term perspective on everything we do, and I think it goes back to the core. I mean, yes, we want to go deep, and we want to go really best in class in everything we do, and then gradually expand, the range, the product range, and in 20 years we will surely have gained a lot of ground in the full strength category, expanding our sort of specialist position.
Alberto, I'm sure if you didn't sleep, you probably have an app and a supplement to take care of that. But for the spirit of the for the question, I know you never stop thinking, and you definitely are thinking about how to keep Zumba around 100 years from now. You're always wanting to do the next thing and how to stay innovative and ahead of the curve. So how does what's Zumba going to look like 20 years from now? How are you planning for that?
So I'm going to join the paranoid survival community, because I don't sleep because I'm thinking about everything all the time, and I'm obsessed with our community, obsessed with our instructors. I spend a lot of time listening to our instructors, talking to instructors, and they are our boss ultimately. And our mission as a company is to help our instructors change more lives, and that's what I focus on all the time. And I think if people stop dancing, we're in trouble. But if people continue to dance, we want them to continue to dance with Zoom, and that's what I'm focused on. So it doesn't matter what channel we deliver it through. Like we're working on virtual reality, we're working on another digital product, we're working on different ways that instructors will connect with their students. But as long as people are dancing, we want them dancing with us.
Well, we know for sure that all the technology in the world, it's not going to replace the push-up, and it's certainly not going to replace dancing at its core. You know, Don, in addition to that book, I don't know if it was in the book, but another great line was, I think it may be Andy. He goes up to entrepreneurs and says, well, if you had to create a business to put yourself out of business, what would you do? And it's fascinating because people usually answer the question. They're like, oh, yeah, if I had to start a new CrossFit. And he's like, no. If you're not doing that, someone else is and going to put you out of business. Mm-hmm. So in the spirit of the paranoid, let's end with that quote, and really appreciate all three of you joining me today. Eric, I know you're in a completely different time zone, so appreciate you signing on. And look, congratulations. A lot of people in the fitness community are extremely passionate. They have great ideas, but they can't claim to be around for 20, 30, or 60 plus years. So congratulations on your success, and hope you join me again soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Having us.
Good to be with you.